Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we close out Black Awesomeness Month, 50 Cent February, with As Written By 50 Cent.
It's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday.
That's right, this is the last Tuesday in February, so Black Awesomeness Month, 50 Cent February, is coming to a close. And we close on, a high note for 50, if not for, cinema in general, with As Written By 50 Cent. These are three movies that 50 Cent wrote and then subsequently starred in. It's characteristic of how ambitious this guy is. I mean, there is very few avenues of business or entertainment development that he hasn't tried at least once, and movies being one of his more successful enterprises. It's one of the funny things as I've been talking to people about these movies and the triple features all this month. One of the first things just about everybody says is they're surprised that he's made this many movies, but he has. He has appeared in 23 different movies with a 24th on the way, so good on him. Looking at all of these movies, and I can't, lie and say they're particularly good, but the one thing I can say is that 50 takes them very seriously, and not like in a goofy he takes them very seriously way. He's like really trying. If I were to recommend any single triple feature that people watch, it would be this one, because you can see him working on making better movies with each successive movie, and that's laudable. And if nothing else, for a pasty privileged white guy, it provides a lot of different points of view that I would not necessarily have been exposed to otherwise. So I'm very happy I chose this overall theme for the month. This week our menu is going to include Before I Self-Destruct, Gun, and All Things Fall Apart by auteur Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. I say auteur because he wrote, directed, produced, provided most of the music, and stars in the film as the lead. He plays Clarence, who is an up-and-coming street ball basketball player who is very, very good, but unfortunately an injury early in the film robs him of his career, and he's left wondering what to do with his life. Unfortunately, he hasn't really developed any talents outside of it, so he's kind of stuck working minimum wage jobs to help his mother and his younger brother, who is a certified genius, make ends meet. And then, even more unfortunately, their mother is shot down in a drive-by. Clarence goes for revenge when, everything else falls apart in his life. Avenges his mother and then goes after the head drug dealer. And the head drug dealer is kind of impressed by his moxie and offers him a job as a hitman. And so Clarence becomes a hitman and has a lot of success with that until he is unfortunately gunned down because of his girlfriend. The thing of it is there's not a hell of a lot of conflict considering how many things befall Clarence and his younger brother Shaka throughout the film. Like, things just tend to work out, through work and through effort, but, things just sort of work out. And Clarence doesn't really have a lot of trouble, transitioning from a veiled basketball player to murderer. And his brother is just kicking ass in his advanced placement classes and is being offered full rides to Harvard, Yale, every other Ivy League school and everything. Then you get to the end where it just sort of comes out of nowhere and then the movie is over. You'll have to watch it. I'm not going to spoil the exact way it ends. Just say it is abrupt. As I hinted in earlier triple features, an overriding theme throughout 50s movies where he's starring in them, especially when he writes them, is presenting shades of gray. There are a few black and white situations of what one should do. Like, all avenues are closed off to you, so you turn to crime. But you see him trying to make ends meet through legitimate means. It's just, he was encouraged to do what he was good at. And when that didn't work out, it's hard to start over from nothing, with no other talents, seemingly. Except for, apparently, a latent talent for murder. And, being cool, which is also one of the things that the head drug dealer, played by Clifton Powell, really enjoys. But the beginning had a really great sense of tension with the opening sequence, and there are a lot of good ideas. And for a first-time filmmaker, I've seen worse things. So, yeah, good for you, 50. Good, strong. This is a good start. And also, it's interesting that when 50 has more creative control, he does not start out. His characters don't start out just turning to crime, like having always been in the life. You can see that Clarence really had nothing to do with criminal activity until all other options were closed off to him. And I was kind of impressed with 50's acting throughout most of this one. There are genuine moments where he can really convey innocence and just utter despair, and even he can cry on command. There is a Fitty cries when the police tell him his mother dies. So, acting, yes. Next up we have Gun, which I'm not going to go into too much detail since you can just go back to the Val Kilmer video at the beginning of the month and where I talked about that in more detail. 50 just writing and starring in this one. You can sort of see in Gun that 50 may have been writing a movie that fit what mainstream movie producers were looking for more than what he would have done if left to his own devices, because he's basically playing the type of character that he ends up playing in other people's movies, but in a much more prominent starring role. In this one, if you recall, he's a gun runner that Val Kilmer is, whose gang Val Kilmer is trying to infiltrate so he can get revenge for the drive-by murder of his wife. And again, I'm just going to reiterate Shades of Grey, where it all really comes down to the final confrontation between Fitty and Val Kilmer's characters, where Val Kilmer feels he is entitled to revenge, and 50's character is rightfully pointing out that his hands are no cleaner than 50's, and that Val has been murdering people throughout this whole movie, and so what makes him special and above reproach and everything. Which sort of makes the ending a little strange, with Fitty ending up in jail and Val ending up with his daughter, which it gives it a more happier ending than I would have expected. And finally, our last movie of the month of 50 Cent February, All Things Fall Apart, as opposed to Things Fall Apart, which is what Fitty wanted to call the movie originally, but the Chinua Achebe people had an issue with that. Fitty plays a star college football player named Dion. His family is putting all of their hopes in his basket of possibly landing a career as a pro football player. I say his family is most of his family, which consists of Lynn Whitfield as his catering mother, Mario Van Peebles as his mother's boyfriend / surrogate father figure. Mario also did double duty directing the film, and of the three, this one definitely has the most polish. Mario Van Peebles is a fairly accomplished film director, and once again it shows. This is a good looking movie. And finally, Dion's brother, who has more than a little resentment at growing up in Dion's shadow throughout the whole movie, despite his intelligence and hardworking nature. Everything seems to be going great, as demonstrated by the full half hour to 40 minutes of everything going great, until Dion is diagnosed with some pretty serious cancer right near his heart. And that basically destroys his entire college career. And while his mother and Mario Van Peebles are pushing for him to recover, to hopefully get the plan back on track, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that that's just not going to happen, as evidenced by Dion losing basically a third of his body weight. And to his credit, Fitty lost all this weight. It's quite a transformation. Not necessarily to the Christian Bale level, but I would definitely put it in a Robert De Niro level weight loss, where Fitty was about 216, 220, according to articles at the beginning of filming, and then went on an all-liquid diet and ran for 3 hours a day and lost something like 50 pounds. And, it wasn't all just in his ridiculous wig. It can't be understated how much mileage you get acting-wise from this physical transformation. He has, it's doing so much heavy lifting for him that 50 really can do some interesting things. And it should be noted that this is the only movie I've seen where he is neither a criminal nor a police officer. And that's including all the movies that he's written. He is just a straight up, he is a college student slash football player, and even as bad as things get, he just stays a complete civilian, which it's like a breath of fresh air seeing this. So everything goes horribly wrong after he gets the cancer, and then, he has to figure, much like in Before I Self-Destruct, which to a lot of degrees could be viewed as a first draft of All Things Fall Apart. He tries to put his life back together without having developed any other skills. He doesn't even have enough credits to graduate college, so he's just having a bad time. And things get as bad as they possibly can get. The family is torn apart. Friends abandon him. Girlfriends abandon him. Everybody abandons him. And it's only through rebuilding his ties with his friends and family in a way that doesn't involve them riding in his coattails, or, and in the case of his brother being envious of his coattails, he manages to put everything back together before things get even worse. In lieu of, fighting harder, he does something really, really nice for his friends and family, and the movie has a fairly beautiful ending, considering its depressing subject matter. It's a fairly complex movie, subject matter-wise, in terms of viewing the family. It's not clear-cut. Are they, ghouls for putting all their hopes on this young man's football career, or is this just another way that you can get to a better station in life? There's examination of the medical care industry and how that is built out. There's look at credit industry, and also the NCAA, how colleges treat their athletes or mistreat them. It's really interesting. The only problem is that, recurring problem that Before Self-Destruct had, there's not a lot of actual conflict. Things just tend to happen as opposed to characters making them happen, which would be my only real complaint. But All Things Fall Apart is just a pretty good movie, if only in comparison to all the other 50 Cent movies I've watched throughout this month. But Fitty wrote it, and Fitty started it, and Fitty went through a complete physical transformation just for this movie and acted his ass off in it. So this is a pretty high note to end on for 50 Cent February. Would I say these movies are good overall? Not really, but you know what? I'm a fan of 50 Cent now, which that is something that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't started to do this. So thank you very much, 50 Cent, for making all these movies, and I look forward to seeing you pop up in other movies and listening to your albums. And so unfortunately, this is the end of Black Awesomeness Month for 2016, and so, next week, white people again, I guess. Oh, also, this is the first Black Awesomeness Month that I haven't managed to work in Black Dynamite. So go watch Black Dynamite in addition to all the other movies that we've been talking about, because Black Dynamite is still incredible. And I'll see you guys next week.